For centuries, African American story was interrupted. From the pain of colonization, slavery, and the fight for civil rights to the unparalleled cultural influence, African Americans have shown some unstoppable resilience here and there, under every odd. But what if your true power lies in reconnecting to the roots that have been severed and cut off from you? Let's look at African American ascent to power and prosperity. It is a very, very critical understanding that we need to unleash. We want to thank you for watching and liking and subscribing to our video. We also ask you to leave a comment and to share this video to as many people as possible. You are listening to Hamiti Hebrew Ethics on YouTube channel, and we also offer Bantu Foundations, where you embark into a lifelong training that will eventually lead you to understanding ancient mysteries. You can go to our website, marifado.org. You can also watch our Instagram, marifado_US. We also have a live Instagram that we present every Sunday. You can send us an email on john@marifado.com. We are deliberating on how can you reclaim your power, rediscover your roots, and rise above every obstacle in America, specifically today. And perhaps you can apply it all over the other places on earth where the environment is crafted to block you, to block your energy. Want to look at the African American identity, how you can break the chains of systematic racism, overcoming economic disparities, reconnecting to your ancestry, and how you can celebrate your identity without any apologies. Let me introduce you to Bantu Foundations, a transformative journey into rediscovering your identity, African spirituality, reality modification strategies, as well as empowerment that leads you to knowing your true identity if you are an African American. Who is an African American? We know that the earth about 25,000 years ago was populated by only melanin dominant human beings, black people, who have carried various diversities and various names across the ages. If you read the book How Black People Colonized the Earth and Civilized the World, Black History from Our Human Origins to Hannibal Barker by Perry Kapera Kyles, you understand the term autochthonous, which is a term for the inhabitant of a place, in other words, in this case of the earth, indigenous rather than descendant from migrants or colonists. You can also go to David Imhotep. The first Americans were Africans, documented evidence. This is millions of years ago. Also look into the issue of Native Black Americans, the African Americans that existed in America before slavery, autochthonous American and Native American. You can see that those are how they have been labeled today, Latino or Hispanic, and all those that look like a Chinese or a mixture or a mulatto of Chinese. When we understand this history, we realize that all so-called Indians in America, discovered by Columbus and many others, were melanin dominant human beings. Many of them autochthonous, in other words, on the earth. You have to read our book Free From God to realize that the earth was just a single mound that split into so-called continents today. Scholars and researchers that are honest and clear in their foresight have written that the complexion of the Carolina Indians is black, not much different from that of the Ethiopians. Their hair is black and thick and not very long, tied back behind the head like a small tail. As for the physique of these men, they are well proportioned, of medium height, a little taller than we are. They are broad chests, strong arms, and the legs and other parts of the body well composed. They are broad in the face and have big black eyes. They have sharp cunning and are agile and swift runners. This is Giovanni da Verrazzano an Italian explorer in 1524. There can be no doubt of the indigenous people, the autonomous people of ancient Americas. But the slave trade would now come and add more to this. And that's where the confusion has been brought up and the divisions have been enlarged. Because we've got a lot of our brothers and sisters from the Yoruba, from the Igbo, from the Akan, from the Banamara, Bambara, from Mali, from Mandinga, from Wolof, from Congo, from the Zulu, from the Fon, from the Mali Empire, from the Songhai Empire, from the Kingdom of Benin, from the Kingdom of Dahomey, from the Kingdom of the Congo, scattered all over in America and now not knowing itself. But we can find ourselves by knowing that there is no totemless, melanin dominant human being on the earth. So before the European contact and the imposition of external identities, melanin dominant human beings were identified through a tapestry of systems, one of which is a very rich spiritual and physical system known as totems. So it is clear that the names that we run around with today were imposed on us for ulterior purposes. So before they became African Americans, they were the founders of Asian civilizations as Egyptians. According to Greeks, we call them Hamitians, Ethiopians, or Kushites, and others were part of a broader African and Afro-Asiatic tapestry predating the transatlantic slave trade and the Islamic slave trade. These civilizations were highly influential in shaping the Earth's history and the history of every human being who has ever come to walk on the earth. And then they became part of the population that populated the whole of Americas, which on top of it were added people from many other parts of the earth. It is very, very critical and important that we break the chains of systematic racism. How do we do that? We do that by knowing that we were kings and queens and act like kings and queens in terms of our thinking, in terms of our education, and in terms of everything that we do on the earth. Know your enemy, because your enemy knows your potential and you don't know that potential. Because you remember, the kingdom of heaven is within you, and whosoever shall know himself or herself shall find it. Before they called you a thug, or before you call yourself a thug and all the other terms, remember, you are a king, you are royalty, you are a queen, you are an alchemist, you are a master teacher, you are a keeper of sacred knowledge, you are a doctor, you are a shamanic, you are a herbalist, you are a knower of many, many, many things. Learn how ancient African principles of Ubuntu and Ma'ati can guide you in navigating today's challenges with wisdom and unity. But above everything else, you have to balance Ubuntu with a good dose of Isfet. How do you do that? We shall show you that skill in the conclusion. Skill number 2, you must overcome economic disparities by acquiring those skills and those products or services that somebody is willing to save money for. And when you get that money and pay that money, and someone is willing to pay that money, you must know that after you know yourself, and after you acquire that skill, and after you base yourself in business and with a home, with a family, you must then know that the next logical step is financial support to those Afro-salvation groups that invest into expansion of your consciousness in spirituality. You must also remember that you can access the African gods of wealth and goddesses of wealth like Meredzega. You can discover more strategies when you are rooted in these collective prosperity and uplifting deities. It can be done. It is being done today as we speak. There are many, many nuances around it which we can share if you join us and if you send us an email. Skill number 3, you must learn to rekindle and reconnect yourself to your ancestors. Not all ancestors. This is the problem. When you rekindle the spiritual and cultural legacy of your ancestors, you need to understand the vibration and the pulses of those specific ancestors. Although all ancestors, good and evil, are in your veins, you can activate any of them. Because we come from ancient kingdoms, to the wisdom of those ancestors and also to the disadvantage of some of our ancestors. So you need to reclaim those good ancestors, not to connect to Christianity, Islam, Judaism, or any other religion, because you are the original on the earth. You are not a derivative. So when you acquire this skill of selecting and knowing which ancestors to deal with, and your will and your free will, you can then acquire other external skills that will buttress and protect your internal environment and your internal universe. That skill can only be understood in one way, not two ways. We shall deal with this because we are melanin dominant human beings. We need to dive deeper into the beauty of our history as African Americans and connected to many other Africans that empowers us to chart forward into the future as a Muntu, a member of the Bantu or melanin dominant humans, the oldest race, created simultaneously with matter when the rocks were still soft. That is when our ancestors stepped on the rocks. We give ourselves maybe 3.5 billion years ago on Earth. Europeans appeared 8,500 years ago. Asians are around 13,000 BCE. There is the proof that we have. So, as an African American, your ancestry goes beyond the existence of this planet you call Earth. What you need to understand here is that if you name it, you own it. So, who named you African American? Because we know that around 1500 years ago, we were called Africans, then slaves, then Negro, then colored, then freedman or freed woman, then black, then Afro-American, then Ethiopian, then Moor, then African American today. And today they are saying people of color, Afro-descendant, and also BIPOC, black, indigenous, people of color, then black Americans. That's all the terms today. Yet, before all this African stuff came about, we were called Kushite. And this could be the oldest name for a human being now called African, with a very clear, well-documented historical and cultural context. It predates all other names like Ethiopian, Moor, or African. Whoever loves to call you an African American is not a fool. He knows why you should accept that, because that is the name, and all other names that have interrupted and has hidden you from me from you, us from each other, and then masked the pain of colonization, slavery, and also destroyed our potential unity. Because if we unite and become one, we are unstoppable against any odds. The enemy knows that, and his divide, rule, and conquer with lots of miseducation, religiosity, false spirituality. He has removed the fear that he has had, and he has put us under control, because 100,000 years ago we were the only people on earth in unity and living together with nature. The original Kushite Kemetic name of Africa was Taneteru. This means land of the deities or land of the gods. Nika Yemakombre. What then could be your real name if you connect yourself to these? I leave the imagination to yourself. African Americans' ascent to power and prosperity comes easier in unity with all other melanin dominant human beings, not single. The journey to freedom begins within. But Band Foundations isn't just a course, it's a movement to reclaim the brilliance of our ancestors and build a legacy for generations to come. Will you answer the call? These histories and ancient identities that we have shared are very tiny and minuscule of the foundation of shared melanin dominant or African encounter and narratives, which, if understood, would restore Africa's historical significance and uplift every melanin dominant human being on the earth. It is important to understand that the African American is one who can play a bigger role to raise all of us up. Would you like more information? Would you like to master Band Foundations so you proceed into Bantu mysteries drawn between these civilizations and African American spirituality or identity? Do not hesitate. If your answer is yes, you can rediscover the powers that are asleep in you today. You need to subscribe to our channel. You need to also study Bantu foundations by enrolling into Bantu University. Till we meet again, your manager to Please Charaba LM Mjaganja says, like our video, comment, share, and subscribe on YouTube channel Hamiti Buru Ethics. Till we meet again, stay well, stay cool. Remember, African American ascendance to power means almost a guarantee for all of us to start to relive divine ancestral wisdom, economic prosperity, and success. Amen.